we go. All right. It's damn near, actually it's 9 past 8 on the 8th. And tomorrow I have got a 3-hour drive to Pittsburgh. Right, we got the Pittsburgh Pro, which frankly I'm getting freaking excited about. If you're into the working out, I promise, I mean, even if you're not a bodybuilder, just even if you just lift because you want to get a little bigger and it's not so deep as that, actually seeing a bodybuilding show and just, you know, how much of a deal they make of it with everybody freaking cheering, you get the crowd, the music, and the lights. It's just fun. So if you ever have one just around, you know, maybe in your city, maybe in your wherever, in, you know, less than, I don't know how much of an hour drive you can handle, I'd recommend checking it out. Good little freaking, you know, hype boost. Frankly, I feel like everybody felt it after this last Olympia, you know, because I mean, every huge show, you know, the Pittsburgh Pro, the Arnold, the Olympia, honestly, they kind of just keep getting bigger and bigger. It always ends up being a dang congregation, right? Everybody comes out of the woodworks either to compete, support, or just freaking show up. Especially at this one, because we've got an expo component as well, which frankly is how all these shows should really be run. I mean, not all of them, of course. Like smaller bodybuilding shows, that's really the point. But if it's going to be a really big freaking deal, having a big ass expo connected during the day with the show at night, that's pretty much the freaking perfect approach. So with all big shows, I think that's those are the ones that kind of end up being the freaking coolest. But plan for tonight, chest. I will I'll have to see how I feel, right? Last chest day was light and squeezing, just mainly flies, just because the last few chest days have been a lot of heavy pressing. So I might change it up and make this one heavy again. You know, we'll just have to see. I don't want to overdo it, you know. And in the sense of overdo it, I don't mean overdo it effort-wise. I mean overdo it like constantly loading my freaking, you know, myself with more weight than I can really handle, right? Like there's a point of progressive overload, and then there's a point of, I guess what you kind of say, progressive deterioration. Right? You're not cool for benching with a really hurt rotator cuff. Some people need to hear it like that. I think I've been lucky enough that my shoulders have remained reasonably healthy, but I've gone through stints where I'm benching, because I used to go real wide, real elbows flared, kind of just like in a nasty sort of way. Oh, I've had some crunchy reps of bench, that is for freaking sure. And it just sucks, you know, because then you got to take time off, let it kind of beef back up, and then if you overdo it too soon, you're just going to tweak it again, even worse, and you put yourself in this repeating cycle. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal in the freaking slightest. So, luckily, well, I guess let's just knock on wood that none of that happens today. No, I don't think it will, but all I can guarantee, regardless of style or exercise selection, is that I'm going to have a chest pump within 60 minutes of arrival. I can say that with basically the same amount of certainty that I can say that the sun is setting right over yonder, and that it's not going to bounce back up and do a freaking 180. So no more discussing. Let's actually take some freaking action here. Let's start squeezing. So I'm going to move on to incline Smith, but let's start with moderately weighted, bent over flies. So I'm kind of just starting chest like how I start triceps, right? Like I've been starting tries with a lot of lights, well, light in quotations, weight that I can manage with a good squeezing hold, and then a deep stretch. So same thing here. These aren't nasty, crazy pump reps. I want to really hold it and burn, stretch, repeat. And by the time I move on to chest for, well, bench, let's just say it'll feel like I'm already kind of activated in a way, I guess. All right. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's grab the Smith. Let's not get too wild and just stick to a moderate tempo 3-plate Smith. Listening to the windmills of your mind. Not because I'm a huge, Mel Torme fan or anything, but massive Severance fan, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. Oh, goodness. Oh, one more. Let's do a little 2-set per exercise style today. That's the problem. Meow. Meow. All right, come on. You're going to be paying it now. One more, come on. It's called a rest pause. Don't worry about it.
Give me a close grip sec. Come on.
All right, come on.
Come on, big dog. Come on. Good. Good. Good boy. Grind. Up. There you go.
Yeah, one more.
Hey, force him extra. Here, Brian, we're forcing there. Come on. Good. Push. Come on, Sam. Push. One more. Up. Good. Oh my God. You're behind him. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I got the whole gym for that one.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're hitting that one.
That's funny.
Sorry, the whole fucking family appeared, bro.
That's funny. Okay, time for a combination. Squeeze of a fly with the action of a press. So, cables yay wide, yay tall, bench at whatever angle you find most comfortable. And here are my cues. All right, I'm thinking a few things. I'm thinking, don't do this and get a ton of front delt engagement. Right, I want my shoulders kind of, you know, really pinned back. And I'm almost trying to pull, like, I know it seems kind of silly to like think about it, but it kind of does feel like this. I'm trying to pull the weight up with like kind of where my biceps starts to insert, right? Like that. Because that's kind of where your chest grabs on your arm and is pulling up, right? There are no pushing muscles. Your whole body is just a complex of essentially contraction-based, right? Sort of whatever's, where nothing pushes, nothing extends. It's all simply pulling here, pulling your tricep in, and that's what gives this sort of pushing motion. And it's not like you're suddenly going to see the Matrix if you think about it that way, but I definitely think it helps. Like, I can feel my chest way more when I envision it like that, like I'm actually just pulling my chest together rather than just pushing with my hands. That's usually a pretty good eureka moment, but not too heavy. All right, come on. All right. Oh my God, okay. Oh. Whew. One more. There we go, come on. Oh. Okay. Oh my God. Oh, we're almost done, I think. One more set right here, but a very different style than this seated kind of deal. Let's get this bench out of the way. This may become a drop set, but I guess I'm kind of just doing a similar set to what I started with those kind of decline flies. But instead of a flying action, these will be regular press. So I'll squeeze as long as I can. And honestly, by the time I kind of wear out myself with the 42 and a half, I might drop it to like 22 and just pump out. I don't know, we'll see. If I feel like I get enough out of just a regular straight set, I can just go pose down. That'll be the end of it. Okay. That's enough. Let's find some mirror space. Pose these mofos down. All right. Let's not take too long. All the freaking characters that just finished lifting want to pose down in the cool posing spot in here. So let's just get a quick one and not hog the freaking downlighting. But relatively chill chest day. Nothing wild. You know, I didn't really just totally slam weight around like I have been the last few. But still feels good. those reps were very intentional. Well, yeah, of course they were intention, but really like having an emphasized squeeze and burn at the bottom. I do think you're missing out if you don't focus on that, you know? Like as much value as I think there is to grab the 150s, boom, boom, you know, slam them to the freaking ground. You know, don't forget, man, for every hard, heavy, nasty set, I think you should compare it, or you should contrast it with a lighter, squeezing, burning one. Right? It kind of keeps everything in balance, you know? Plus, then if you ever tweak something, God forbid, you know, totally, you're gonna feel like you screw the pooch. Because let's say I wreck my rotator cuff doing something, I don't know, doing whatever. And then I'm like, oh, I can't bench heavy. Still come in, do like lighter squeezing, just regular kind of more pump work. And I mean, if you really kill it, I think it's still a pretty damn good lift. You know, so let's actually see how a side chest looks. Oh, goodness. Oh, haven't lost all my veins, but compared to just a few months ago, very different look. But, you know, don't take it at surface value. These lifts feel way better with a good amount of freaking, you know, food and carbs and fats in my belly, instead of just, oh, guys, I went a little crazy today. I had 5 extra rice cakes than I had allotted. Man, I'm off my diet completely. You know, that's a very different state of being. But no more chatting. Let's roll. Let's roll. That was a good pump. That was a really good pump. Frankly, I'd go so far as to say that was a pretty sweet pump. And not the craziest lift ever, in the sense of, you know, overall just drastic, you know, muscular damage or whatever else, you know. So I'd argue the efficiency was pretty good. Those light squeezing sets too. I mean, I used to be a diehard only start with heavy pressing kind of guy, because in my mind it's like, why would I want to tire myself out before I do bench with flies? That doesn't make any sense. I should just do the bench when I'm fresh and strong, and then do lighter squeezing movements after, and think with a closed mind. You know, not to say that approach is bad, but to do flies first and then move on to heavy pressing, nothing wrong with that either. Right? It just ends up being a different lift, you know, because those sets of incline bench were very, well, I mean, you're almost just kind of pre-pumped for it. And honestly, I'm kind of split. It's like I don't need to do flies first and then heavy pressing, or pressing first and then flies. I'm kind of right in the middle. Usually I go back and forth. But with quads, another kind of heavy loaded muscle, yeah, no, I really do like starting at least with a decent warm-up of leg extensions. I'm not even talking like, you know, multiple working sets, but at least, you know, bouncing around, doing some squeezing just to get some blood in the area, and then moving on to whatever that first pressing movement is. Because any kind of leg press, squat, hack, pendulum, whatever, to get onto it with an already semi-pumped set of quads, if you haven't done it before, you are missing out. You get this kind of just extra like elasticity. Ever since I started doing it, I haven't gone back. If that's any testament to how much I like it. But yeah, morning weight 260. Actually, I didn't weigh myself this morning. Yeah, well, I'll hop on the scale tomorrow morning, and we'll have a good gauge. Trying to keep this bulk slow and steady, so I can not get too soft, get as big as manageable, and then peel down going into next year. So that'll be, I won't be diced until, well, yeah, I won't be diced until like Christmas. Something to look forward to, that's for sure. And I am not dissuaded by the fact that, you know, Thanksgiving is going to be around then, and it'll have to be dieting down. I mean, like, you know, if you're that subject to peer pressure, where it's like, come on, have some more mashed potatoes. Yeah, that's such a small portion, you know. I mean, you might need to do some reflecting on your own. How bad do you want it, right? But I mean, don't act like I don't have days where I go absolutely freaking buck wild calorie wise. And not that I'm bragging about it. I should have locked in harder. But on this last diet, I had like 3 8,000 calorie plus days. not towards the end, like the last month and a half. Like that really just does not work in terms of actually getting reasonably like prep stage ready lean. There's no place for an 8,000 calorie day in those last couple of weeks. But in in the beginning or so, yeah, I was kind of being a wuss, and I'd be like, let's just get this out of my system, and then just freaking eat anything in sight, which kind of worked. And there is a little bit of a logic to a refeed where you kind of get your metabolism going again. But 8,000, yeah, that's a little bit too much. That is for freaking sure. So I plan for my post-workout meal. Dude, it's freaking hard to beat. The rice, ground beef, and hot sauce, man. It's freaking sweet. So this guy really just ran a red light. Not cool. But yeah, so what I guess you tell me. I haven't really looked into it so much. I'm not particularly concerned with any amount of like processing that's going into those like red minute rice boxes. So if you know any like jaw-dropping info where like I'm accidentally eating bugs or something, like with all the food dye from like whatever beetle that is, and I'd love to hear it. But ends up being about 100, usually 200 grams dry into a bowl. Fill it up with like just enough water where the water's kind of higher than the rice is a little bit. So I guess volume-wise, it's almost like I'm doing a ratio of like 1 to 1.2 or something of rice to water. So a little more water than the rice. Slap a paper towel onto the top of it just so it doesn't like bubble over, and then microwave for like I guess you can, sometimes I just end up putting a plate on top. That kind of works too, whichever one. And then microwave for usually 5 minutes or so, and it comes out pretty much freaking perfect, right? And then mix that with half a pound of ground beef, either cooked right then and there or prepped in a big ass salad bowl. Like if I cook 6 or 5 pounds of ground beef at once and just have it ready, mix the whole thing together, add a sauce of your choice, be it barbecue. Let's say you're a die-hard get sugar out of my diet kind of guy, get some sugar-free whatever, mix until homogeneous, and then it just freaking disappears, man. And yeah, so that's been my meta. That rice, or no, what I'm saying, rice, oatmeal. I gotta get some potatoes going. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Make a couple of fingerling trays, and then just go from there. What the hell have I been doing? I've got some steaks sitting in the fridge, but I haven't really wanted to actually cook them just because it's kind of a mess to make a steak, because I mean, oil's splashing everywhere. I had a total chump moment, I think maybe like a few months ago or something. I was doing a steak with like a lot of oil. Like I really wanted just like a real fancy pants sear. So I mean, it's almost like a freaking fried steak, really. And rather than get a pair of tongs like a professional and flip it real gentle, like all I had was like a little knife I was going to cut it with. So I'm like, we'll just pick it up. Completely splash my whole stomach with oil. I mean, not like completely, but I just had like little dots all over the place. Looked like I was having an allergic reaction for like a week. But yeah, so I mean, it's kind of a mess. But what I ended up doing was I've got a little, I mean, I guess it's not fancy, just like a regular freaking tabletop toaster oven, but leaving them in there at, I don't know what temperature, like 200, 300, 400. I can't, whichever one. I gotta look it up again. Thermometer. Wait till an internal of one. What do I go for? Usually 125, because then by the time you pull it out, it's still heating up a little bit more. And then usually I won't even sear it. I'll just throw it straight on a plate and kind of either cube it or just eat it as its own sort of thing, piecemeal style. And that's been solid. And it's just a little bit simpler to eat, or well, simpler to prep I mean, and honestly, that's half of the freaking value of a lot of the foods that I want to be eating in an off season, because if I'm eating a lot, I don't want to be sitting prepping the meal for that long. You know, I've never really got into like a full, you know, meal prep kind of mode where I've got tons of Tupperwares or anything else like that. I probably should, just for consistency's sake. But for the most part, it's usually just cook to order or make a ton of something and then scoop it out as necessary, like with the ground beef. But if it takes you a while to get the food ready, then that's just more and more time and hassle that's going to keep you from actually eating it. You know, complexity is not the goal when it comes to chowing down on a ton of freaking food, right? Frankly, the simpler and the easier, the better. Not only in an actual kind of prep and like manageable sort of way, but also just like digestion wise. You know, I know it's kind of seems out of character for me to say that, coming up with all the freaking, you know, cereals, chocolate milk, whatever. But it's gotten to the point now where it's like, yeah, just freaking feel better when you're grubbing on more plain, simple ingredient foods, right? So I'm talking the oatmeal, the rice, the potatoes, steaks, ground beef, eggs, you know, and not really branching out too much. It's like maybe I kind of lost my sweet tooth a little bit because I went crazy at the end of, you know, the bodybuilding competitions. Because, I mean, the day before, when you get to carb up, I mean, it's, you know, you can't eat anything, right? You wouldn't go to freaking B-dubs and get unlimited wings, right? But you do get to eat a ton of freaking carbs that day. Really, I could have eaten more food. As soon as I kind of checked in weight-wise and then came back to the house or the hotel, I was freaking exhausted, so I just kind of slept a lot. So I should have, you know, if I could do one thing differently, I probably would have carbed up more and gotten more food into my system, so I could have gone on stage heavier. But, you know, it's just a live and learn type situation. But I mean, I had so many sweets, and it totally wrecked my stomach too, because it was like completely out of nowhere. I'll tell you one thing, next bodybuilding show, I am going to do an actual slow, like, reverse diet. You know, I'm not just going to jump the gun and start eating a bunch of freaking junk like I did this time. It freaking, ugh, yeah, it was rough. But, you know, now I know. But all I'm trying to say is, you know, the more you can kind of stick to a classic chicken and rice, it's not a bad area to go. And I'm not saying every meal either. You know, I'll bust out some, you know, straight up just turkey sandwiches. One thing, if I can put you onto something turkey wise, if you're not going to go ground turkey, it's I only ever see them at Costco. The Kirkland turkey breasts are peak, because you get a 5-pound, basically just like vacuum sealed block of fully cooked turkey ready to go. And it's not like that, you know, kind of homogenized junk that like regular deli turkey is, where, you know, it's probably got all sorts of just random bits that just didn't get butchered out into regular cuts. You know, it's actually just, you know, straight off the bird. So that's yeah, I gotta start getting some of that in. Really, I need well, I don't have a Costco card, my parents do, so I think I'll ask them next time they go down to pick me up a couple slabs. Because I mean, you know, you get to a point where you eat them enough, or I guess if you just track your protein enough. Well, I guess this is something I'm curious about. What's your usual protein amount per meal? Right? I've always been kind of a 50 gram per meal kind of guy. Adds up to, like, you know, 5-ish meals a day or so. But you get to a point where you can take out this block of turkey, and then just by looking, I got kind of good at it. Now I can basically cut it to be within like 1/10 or 2/10 of an ounce off from 8 ounces. Like, that's just from doing it so much, I've got like a sense for it. Even when it's just the nub of it, it's not like a consistent thickness. Pop on the scale, instant 8 ounces. So then that raises the question, do I even need to track it on the scale to make sure? Yes, right? You know, because let's say I actually cut off 7.5 or like 6. Okay, we'll just cut off a little bigger piece. But yeah, if I could put you on anything protein wise, that's probably it. Dense, it's not dry or anything, and yeah, I mean, frankly, that was what I was coming up on. I mean, in my earlier days lifting wise, you know, I was still tracking my calories, but really I was just tracking my protein. That's all I started with. I wasn't tracking carbs or fats. In my mind, protein was the way to go. Protein built muscle. I had days where I was eating like 450 grams a day. Like, not every day, but I mean, for a while I was doing like 300, 350. I think totally overdoing it. Not that, wasn't like screwing myself or anything, but just unnecessary amounts. But that's all it was. A bunch of the turkey, a bunch of turkey and eggs. Those were the trick. That was in my egg white drinking days as well, which, frankly, I need to look into it again, because it's the consensus is mixed, right? Because the idea is drinking regular egg whites out of the shell. The proteins are just so kind of complex and sort of bound together that it's not particularly high on the absorptivity scale, right? So it's like how once you cook proteins, you actually can kind of break it down easier because it's all been sort of broken down already by the cooking process. So I think the number that I saw last was, if you drink egg whites, you're only really absorbing or digesting, like, efficiently about 50% of the protein. So, if I have a freaking big ass cup of 18 egg whites, I'm only getting 25 grams of protein instead of that 50. But then, some guys will say, well, if you drink the pasteurized egg whites from the cartons, then you're good because it got raised to a certain temperature and it's already kind of like semi broken down to kill the bacteria. We'll see. I don't think it's even a question I can even worry about right now, because all the egg white cartons are out of stock. Like, every time I go through the freaking egg aisle, I see the eggs, regular ones, but the egg whites themselves, I never see any cartons. It's total freaking BS. So we'll see. Because frankly, I mean, those are, if you can handle drinking, I guess I can't really recommend it until I get a consensus on whether or not you actually do absorb the full amount of proteins or digest all the protein from drinking pasteurized egg whites. That's a TBD. But if we'll see. Because I mean, it's quick. It's quicker than a freaking half pound of ground beef, that's for sure. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated on my egg white studies. If you're a leading, poultry scientist or poultry food scientist, I'd love to hear your take on the matter. And don't hold anything back. I don't mind drinking some freaking egg whites. So I'm gonna go home, eat something, pass out, and then I have got a trip to Pittsburgh tomorrow. The expo and the show doesn't actually start till Saturday, so we'll just do a regular lift here in the morning, and then we're gonna drive over. But either way, I will see you for something tomorrow. Might be forearms. We'll have to see.